Wait, you're recording this?
Yes.
Oh my God, we're live?
Oh my God. But we're not on an antenna station, I swear. Welcome back, all. I saw other people doing this, but I already had thought of this myself when I heard this announced. It's like, hey, how about we cover 2 movies? Let's cover a movie based on people Weird Al knew and making his own, segment of skits, and then let's do one where he's making fun of, music biopics that are loosely inspired by people he knew in his life. So we are talking about UHF, which is basically his sketch movie that was, as many knew, critical and commercial flop, but was a big video store and cable TV favorite. And then we're talking about the Voodoo original movie, which you can watch on your phone or on your big screen TV for free, which is the Yankovic story. So I've been a big fan just ever since the 90s and 2000s. He was just always, I wasn't like many others where I saw his 80s show, but I always saw him on like some, talk show or some comedy show. All the various songs he was making fun of. eBay was constantly played in my household because that's a great song. But he was on everything. I mean, Spy Hard soundtrack. He's even in a freaking one of the Pokemon soundtracks.
Oh yeah. Pokemon movie 2000. Yeah, Pokemon. Everybody Pokemon.
Yeah,
I had that CD.
I bet you did.
And I also saw it in theaters because, of course, I had to.
You had to, man. My mom, and he was just always just staying current. Like he just always was like popping up in some kind of comedy routine. He was on everything from Adult Swim. He's a hysterical segment on Tim and Eric. My mom just kept. Did you ever see the one show where it looked like he was doing mock interviews with people against stock footage of him?
Yes, I have seen clips from that.
He did it again around the 2000s on YouTube, and he would do the same kind of thing where he would just take stuff out of context, like they're saying stupid shit to him, and he's just.
I saw one that involved one with him and Eminem. He just kept repeat. It kept having Eminem
the one that broke the internet.
Know what I mean? I know what you. Yeah, I know what you mean. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I know what you mean.
I know what you mean.
There was one I saw. There was one I saw around the time his album Poodle Hat was coming out, and it was him interviewing quote unquote Avril Lavigne.
Mm-hmm. And that was kind of like his free. He basically UHF is kind of noted now as kind of like predicting the internet, but he was kind of figuring out the internet before the internet was becoming a thing. So I'm jealous. You got to see him at various concerts growing up.
Well, like I've only like the 2 concerts I've been to.
Hey, that's more than enough.
Yeah, he was, because like he was the first concert I ever went to was his in like 2000, just before it was like the summer before I started 7th grade.
And
my older brother, one of his friends, and I went. So.
Totally. And
then
Paul, you had watched his various 80s sketch shows and music videos.
Yeah, when I could. I've also seen him in concert a few times as well. Most recently here, I seen him at, I think that was back in September, I want to say. It might have been August this year. And he also brought up the one of the films that we're talking about here today.
Yeah. These pretty much write themselves. Like UHF is basically, from what the AV Club reported, he was just asked to do an airplane type comedy, just string a bunch of skits together for this plot. And the Yankovic story, he had for years thought about doing a story that, since fans of his were so inspired by him.
And there was that fake trailer for a while back with Aaron Paul playing him.
That was a great bit too.
That flew under my radar, and I don't know how I missed it since I was often watching Funny or Die.
And that's where I was like, yes, let's make this movie. I was thinking for when I saw, like, I want this to be real. I want a real like movie of this, making fun of the typical biopic, because of course, unlike so many other musicians, Weird Al has no controversy in his life, really.
Yeah, that bit's probably in my top 3 Funny or Die bits I've ever seen.
They've done some good stuff. I looked up the director of the short as well as the extended, Al Yankovic story movie, and he apparently was mentored at the Upright Citizens Brigade, and then he's done all kinds of shows: Eagle Heart, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Son of Zorn, and The Office. So I was like, yeah, that makes sense. That checks out.
I liked Son of Zorn.
That was such a wild show. It was like a He-Man type
I
cartoon.
I love that show. I was sad.
Me too. I hated that it got canceled. And Tim Meadows, I feel, is very underappreciated as a comedian.
Oh, I had pals who would get mixed up with Don Cheadle, and I was like, he's not Don Cheadle.
Like, he really, he's not necessarily good. Well, his Ladies Man sketches on SNL were funny, but the movie itself was just, But then again, it probably was a character that could be expanded upon.
I'm not gonna shit on him compared to all the other comedians who were you're better at supporting. I mean, I feel like him and Kevin Nealon were just always the heavyweights, and people just just didn't give enough because they wanted to give it to Sandler and company.
Meadows is a good straight man, which most comedies need. I feel like usually you need like a straight man to react to certain
it helps a lot in situational comedies.
Like he was the principal of Mean Girls.
Yeah.
and he was great in that. He had great, just again, not deadpan reaction to the crazy shit going on.
Oh man. So Weird Al could have probably had his own MTV SNL show if he kept trying, but I respect him for just saying, I'm going to be part of an ensemble. I'll do all kinds of things. I think around, I want to say 2010, I saw him randomly promoting one of his music CD things, and he was doing. Anytime he was on a late night TV show, he had it all kind of figured out, much like a lot of those other comedy bands like Tenacious D. He just would always just be walking around. He's just very cinematic. He knows how to interact, and even when he's just screaming or something, he just has that aura to him. And I very rarely have encountered anybody who just never cared for him. And chances are, if they didn't like him, they just kind of I don't know, just were very nitpicky.
I've known a few people who couldn't stand him because they're like, that takes no talent to make fun of stuff. It's like,
it sounds like
original
they just hate any parodies, and it's like he would do original shit, and it's like they weren't
or the style.
His style parodies, his style parodies, I think, are probably his best works as far as
honestly
music goes.
I personally don't think parodying lyrics is as easy as people think, because for one thing, you still gotta write the lyrics, you still gotta have the music composed.
On top of that, he's not just coming up with a parody of the song, he's doing the music too.
That was the hardest part.
He's an incredible musical talent to begin with.
I don't know much. I'm not a music person in terms of, but I gotta imagine there's a difference in the music you gotta write for guitar compared to accordion.
Exactly. And
the tempo has to, he has to figure out the tempo and everything to get it sounding right for the song.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, exactly. I remember at his concert I saw in 2016, he performed Yoda on accordion, which of course instead of guitar like it is in the album. So that had to be, there's definitely a difference there in terms of how you play that in the tempo and whatnot. Again, you did a solid job because it's.
And plus, when you're doing a comedy skit, just like any kind of improv, you got to commit. Just like when someone who's a troll in the audience has given you a suggestion, and now you got to commit to that, even though they did it just to be an asshole. You got to commit to the parody, regardless of whether it's working or not, because you're committed to being a parody of said person, looking like that person, acting like them in this comedic segment, regardless of whether the comedy works or not.
Right.
So, I think a lot of people just downplay it because they're just used to seeing stupid shit in a post YouTube age, and so they're just like, and it's just Well, you could, if you're going to go that way, you could easily
Well.
argue that you could also, I don't know, talk shit about people. That doesn't take any effort either. So
Yeah. Well, you also see a lot of people on YouTube who get instantly popular despite not, like, I see some usually like, these
Yeah.
people are this popular. Like, why?
I mean, it's a different
How
kind
did-
of thinking. Just kind of
how
like
did-
how the 80s and 90s you can make a movie
how-
around
how
a
did
wrestler or football.
How did Aaron and Jake Paul get popular? It makes no sense to me.
Yeah, I
I
don't
think-
understand how a lot of things, especially.
I don't
these
even
days.
know why people would give them a TV guest spot when they were known for being
Just-
assholes.
I mean, at least like I could understand how like something like Fred got popular in the early days of YouTube is just
Ooh,
a dumb squeaky voiced kid. I get how that would get someone's attention in grade school. Like part of me gets it. Part of me gets how that would somehow get popular enough to like. Apparently, I think he was the first YouTuber to get 1 million subscribers.
well, let's hope Weird Al has 5 gazillion subscribers.
One would assume. I hope.
I love how when he made White and Nerdy, like I had never heard the actual song it was based
Yeah.
on, which was Riding by Chamillionaire, and it's just so wild how that song instantly became
a lot of-
infamous and became a one-hit wonder, and that
Oh, yeah.
his song became bigger. I every Riff Tracks live event I've been to, it White and Nerdy almost always got played at one point or another because they like working with Weird Al.
Yeah. Weird Al did that one skit with Riff Tracks about pork. It's like you're the ambassador of pork. Like, I'm a vegetarian, you guys.
I did not see that one, but that's funny.
Their Christmas short extravaganza. It was like one of their early live shows.
Okay, I think I saw part of one of the live shorts, or not the live short, one of the live shows. Yeah,
And I
guess.
know he like Nelson riffed on Jurassic Park together.
Yeah, there was that, and he made a Mystery Science Theater appearance. But other than that, yeah, he's kind of just any comedy group.
He
pretty much he gets along with. Just,
for UHF, he wanted Joel Hodgson to play the Philo character.
and it's just so mind blowing how Hansen had that anxiety, and he's like, I don't want to play the supporting guy, even though I only have like one line. I don't like myself in front of the camera, even though I do a comedy show.
Well, like
puppets.
I guess that was a bit. I guess maybe it had to do with the fact that he wasn't writing the material or something. I think it's like he didn't have much confidence in himself as an actor, and that
Yeah.
MST, the acting is kind of always intentionally goofy anyway. Although
yeah,
that was
plus,
goofy, but
once again, he's acting with basically the camera people, his puppeteer buddies. But Joel was very much like his best friend, Jerry Seinfeld, who, there's a connection here, Michael Richards, before playing Kramer is in here. But basically, Joel and Jerry, they all had the same kinetic idea that, hey, I'm a comedian, I'm never an actor, I'm just being funny. I'm like, after I do this thing where I'm basically playing myself, I'm not doing this anymore. So
I looked up trivia. They did Stanley Spadowski, they wrote it with Michael Richards in mind, but they said like if they couldn't get him, Christopher Lloyd was another one they would consider, which like,
would he have been cheap back then?
I don't know.
Because that was right off Back to the Future, so I can't imagine.
Probably not, but I mean, who knows? If Christopher Lloyd liked it enough, he might have done. But they were able to get, Richards, because he was.
Yeah, that wasn't just Back to the Future. He also had some Star Trek money coming in too.
Yeah,
right.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
I mean,
that too. Yeah,
yeah. So
so hard to say. I don't know if he would have worked for scale. Who knows?
There's some other good actors in here. There's Ged Watanabe, who you might know from 16 Candles as the Kung Fu instructor. Yeah.
So bad.
Emo Phillips, Dr. Demento, who again, is dramatized by The Office's Rainn Wilson in the biography, but it's just cool seeing him actually being here. David Probel, years before The Sopranos, is the thug.
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh yeah. Well, he plays mafia guys in tons of things, but yeah.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, because he's got the look.
He's got the look, to quote Roxette. So what do you think as Kevin McCarthy from freaking Howling
Snatchers and
there's just so many different movies and shows. And as some people I know him only from this. Is that crazy?
I mean, well, this is
It's
like
a good
his
role, but it's just so wild. I mean, I'm
I
sure he
guess
didn't know if it stuck at the time until years later.
I mean, it depends, I guess, on how much, because some people don't watch older movies. That might be why, and or like much older movies, as in like from the 50s. So, which of course, I got to see Invasion of the Body Snatchers at this horror marathon on a big screen, and
Lucky
that
you.
although which was fun, although somewhat amusing, just because like just watching how there were several times throughout the movie where people were just like, "Hey, let's have a drink." I'm like, boy, there was just a lot of casual drinking going on back there, wasn't there? And like, I got that the movie was supposed to be like a metaphor for communism.
Something to that
But, like,
extent, yeah.
It was like because conformity or something, and like just the over the top the over the top performance. They're like they're already here, like, which I guess. Oh yeah, that was later. I think. Oh yeah, Joe Dante used that clip in Gremlins. Actually, Kevin McCarthy's been a few Joe Dante movies.
Right. So basically, he would have just done Inner Space by that point, and
Oh yeah, that's right. He was. That's right. He was in that. I
Twilight Zone
that was
movie,
a fun
but
one.
yeah,
I haven't seen that in years. But yeah, Joe. But yeah, Joe
Wikipedia
Dante
claims he's best known for freaking Death of a Salesman because he played in the play so many times. They cast him in like the first movie version in '51. I'm like, that's wild.
Yeah, Joe Dante. He often casts a lot of like older like B movie actors.
That was his education, my dude.
Well, yeah, because Dick Miller was in like all of his virtually all of his movies.
You gotta cast Dick Miller and everything. He is amazing.
That dude was awesome. And
I'm surprised he's not in this, given that it's an Orion picture. I would almost always see him in one of those big.
True, it does feel like he should be in there somewhere.
Yeah, it does seem that way.
But yeah,
I'm sure Dante loved it. He probably saw this opening day and was like, people don't understand.
Test audiences apparently really liked it. It's just that they placed it. Apparently, they gave it a bad like release date because there's just so many other bigger movies coming out. And sure, Weird Al was popular by that point, but like they probably thought this probably wasn't a summer release movie.
Yeah, and
like, let's face it, like, this kind of movie probably needed to be released in like a slower season where like more people would notice it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was released. Summer of '89. What movies were out? I mean, there were Batman.
Everyone was pretty much going to the art house movies, the war dramas, and Tango and Cash. Just other goofy.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think like
because
there were so many like there were definitely like there was a 30 Indiana Jones movie that came out in the '89.
In between '88 to '91, it's a real gray line because everyone was basically realizing, hey, not everything has to be at the cinema, and some stuff is still greater in the cinema versus on the movie channels. That's where we got into mini culture wars before we had actual today's culture wars of physical versus digital.
I also read that like Weird Al was like a huge fan of it being called UHF because they thought it would date the movie. Like, he wanted to be called like Vidiettes or Viddy Maniacs or something like that. Or like,
I thought it was a rumor at first, but no, he was legit. He was like, I'm not sure kids will know what the hell I'm talking about because I want to make something for everybody. He's always had
I don't think I ever heard that.
It's like he had a PG approach to everything. He always wanted something for adults as well as something for the kids that, the kids love all the goofy beat 'em up and slapstick, and the adults love all the other just like inside jokes.
Well,
for me though, go ahead.
Something just go out of date regardless. I mean, like some of his parody songs. I mean, hell, don't download this song which brings out like Morpheus and Kazaa. Like, how many people remember those anymore?
Yeah, he chose some subtle, movie music hits. Definitely.
Like you go for sometimes when making which I get though, like when you're writing a parody song or making fun of pop culture of the time, you go with of the time. And at the time of Don't Download This Song, Morpheus and Kazaa were both like very popular downloading programs.
Oh man.
I got
And,
friends. I got friends a couple years younger than me who don't remember like Kazal or Morpheus. Just like, and they're only they're only like a couple years younger than me. But like, I guess it's just that could be enough of a difference.
I mean, whatever he wants to do, man. I mean, it could have worked. What were you going to say earlier, Paul? Sorry.
Oh yeah, I was just saying the UHF title actually kind of drew me in on it because for years for me, I grew up where there wasn't a cable in the area, so the only you only had equivalency to cable if you had satellite. Well, I unfortunately did not, so all we had was console TV, and the two dials there. One of them was the UHF dial, which didn't really do much of anything for a number of years. But then eventually, we did have a couple of stations that were on it.
I played with some walkie-talkies and radio signals in the late 90s and saw this movie in the early 2000s, back when there was still some decent stuff to get from Blockbuster before it just became just garbage. Like, I don't want to rent part 2 through 5 if I haven't seen part 1 of whatever stupid movie we're getting. And then it just got to where it was even hard to find like a comedy that most people could watch, that, you know, or just a movie that just didn't look just trashy or some shit, like, or like just some semi, you know, bottom of the barrel, lowbrow. And I just had the worst rental stores to go to. But fortunately, this one snuck in and I remembered it. And I don't know that my siblings remember it as much. They would occasionally see parts of it. I know they really chuckled at it growing up, and I just was guffawing at just, you know, I remembered more than just the gags of the movies he was making fun of, like Indiana Jones and Rambo. I mainly just remembered also just the other wacky characters. And it was a good display of, again, Michael Richards' talent before he became just only TV, as well as Fran Drescher, who, you know, is just, you know, always remembered for her various sitcoms. But it was just cool how everybody here kind of just, they gel with each other here. You know, you got Victoria Jackson from SNL. How do you guys feel about the other supporting players?
I think they're all pretty well put together for it.
Yeah,
everybody worked well together.
Even their briefer scenes were, did a good job with their scenes they were given. I mean, I remember as a kid seeing, I think I saw the opening to UHF on TV probably when I was young, like probably
way young.
probably 5 or 6 years old. Man. I remember seeing Weird Al videos on MTV back in the day, particularly I think the Fat video got played a good deal of times. But I definitely remember Amish Paradise coming on MTV.
That was a big one, yeah. On occasion, you'll find this funny. I hear I Lost on Jeopardy played on rare occasions on the radio in like morning hours.
And
yeah, I've heard it a few times over the years.
And it's always funny because you'll hear it sounds so much like the actual, you know, Motown song, and you're like, wait a second.
The first album of his I ever got full album I got to listen to was Running with Scissors, because a friend of mine had a copy of it. So, and that pretty much started me looking up more of his music and buying some CDs. And then of course it was in 2000 I got to go to see him in concert with my brother.
Yours again. This is so fortunate.
Yeah, and then mom's dogs are barking at something.
It's all good. I can barely hear it.
And then it was 2002 when UHF got released on DVD,
something like that. Yeah, it wasn't on DVD right away, but
because that was where I first probably heard of it, or at least knew the title, just because I remember that the one clip I remember seeing of UHF was the opening Indiana Jones scene, like that. And that was probably before I saw Indiana Jones, but I knew that scene.
I'm glad that Shout Factory gave it some love, because it was long overdue love.
Because the running from the boulder is just part of the cultural zeitgeist. Even if you haven't seen Indiana Jones till a certain point, you know that scene.
Yeah, that was used in a lot of places here and there.
And a lot of these actors, they already kind of started in similar stuff. Like, I know Jackson's a crazy political person. We're going to scam over that, but she was really good on SNL. And
she was great on SNL.
But what's funny is, did you see her earlier movie, Stooge Mania? If you haven't, don't. It's bad, but that was a nut. There were always these cult movies that would just sneak under, and we could always tell it was a bad movie night if one of the parents had rented it, and we were just like, we had no taste in quality, but we were at least to the point of that moment where we're just like, we just want to go to sleep, forget staying up late and watching movies because it's a weekend. And yeah, Stooge Mania was definitely one of those. Just like, hey, that sounds like a fun idea. A guy who based his life around watching Three Stooges movies, and then you get right into it and you're like, oh, I can see why this is considered one of the worst, obscurely bad movies of all time.
A huge mistake.
And yeah, it's just a cameo for her in that. But
we'll return after these messages.
Do you ever find yourself thinking about who would win in a fight between Goku and Superman? Hi, I'm James Gavsey, and on the Who Would Win show, me and my co-host Ray ignore anything important happening in the outside world and debate fictional battles between characters from comics, movies, and video games.
We got a new show every week, and almost always am I the winner.
Yeah, not true, Ray.
In the past, we've discussed such matches as Captain America versus Darth Vader, Solid Snake versus the Iron Giant, classic matchups like RoboCop versus Terminator, and even the Muppets versus Sesame Street.
That one was crazy. So if you're a fan of geek culture and love a spirited debate, check out the Who Would Win show wherever you get your podcasts, or check us out at whowouldwinshow.com.
We let things pile up in the DVR, we add them to our queues, we wait for the DVDs and Blu-rays. We time shift. The Time Shifters Podcast. Sci-fi, horror, fantasy, superheroes, comedy, action, film, television, maybe some not-so-current events. Find us on iTunes or at timeshifterspodcast.com.
Cool thing about Blind Knowledge is we are in multiple countries. We are worldwide all across the globe. We are in the US, we are in the UK, we are in Canada, Germany, India, Japan. We're in Australia, y'all. BlindKnowledge.com. Now back to the feature presentation.
Dragon Ball Z, One Piece, Naruto, all things that we love, all manga that were originally published in the legendary magazine Weekly Shonen Jump.
But not every series can run for 300 chapters and have a hit anime. This is David.
This is Jordan.
We're the hosts of Shonen Flop. Each episode we look at manga that ran in Jump that didn't quite make it.
We discuss what it did wrong, what it did right, how the series could have turned itself around, and ultimately, was it a flop or not?
We're on all your favorite podcast apps, and you can find us at shonenflop.com.
Keep on flopping, floppers.
This is a way better cult movie for her, because after that, she just did like guest spots and then kind of retired. I think
it was from watching. It was when I first saw UHF. I was like, "Oh, hey, it's that lady from SNL," because I had seen Comedy Central used to play reruns of SNL all the time.
All the time, even Conan O'Brien would re-air on Comedy Central. That's how.
So back in the late '90s, early 2000s. So I saw a lot of like the '90s era episodes, and so I saw the sketches that I had like Victoria Jackson. Yeah, she was really funny in those.
Right.
Yeah, that's the era I know the most, because that's the era I watched live.
I remember she dubbed over like Kathleen Turner hosted one year, and she dubbed her at her opening monologue. They have her lip syncing and Victoria Jackson's voice coming out. Like, it's so nice to talk in my natural voice. So of course, because of course Kathleen Turner's known for her smoky voice.
Right.
And I know, let's see. Oh yeah, Victoria Jackson also had that movie with Leah Thompson, Casual Sex.
Yeah,
which
that was kind of a guilty pleasure of mine.
Andrew Dice Clay.
I just for whatever reason knew you'd say that.
I remember Andrew Dice plays in that movie too.
Yeah, he is.
It's a goofy.
It's an amusing movie.
Yeah,
one thing I didn't realize.
That's what led me to it. It's my obsession with Leah Thompson. So,
hey, can't blame you, dude. She's becoming a cool director. In between all these comedy movies, it's better than Howard the Duck. More on that later.
I still like that one too.
I still don't.
I'd love to see a redone one that's a lot better though.
It really is. I'll still say it really is not one of the worst movies ever made. Like, it's.
I can think of dozens of movies way worse.
It's just
worse. But I was.
It's just so totally inconsistent.
I think that's just it. You don't know why everyone. There's all these body snatchers and aliens fighting them, and you're just.
I think Leah Thompson is. I think she's adorable in it.
I mean,
and I do think she's at least.
The actors did their job with.
Yeah, like the actors are definitely. I mean, I think it seems like I bet it was the kind of movie they had. It seems like they had fun making it. So
I would think they did, or I'd like to think they would. Well, the guy in the duck suit probably not so much, but
well, no. I gotta imagine Tim Robbins having some fun chewing that scenery.
Definitely his worst performance, but it's not as bad as Eric the Viking. Blam.
Haven't seen, but
that's a slow one.
I know it's got a cult following.
Oh dear. What do you think of John Paragon's role in this? You know him as Jumbie the Genie from Pee-wee.
Oh yeah, he was in this. Who did he play?
He played RJ.
Oh right, yeah.
One of the other just supporting guys. The Kipper Kids. I was not familiar with them, but they were apparently again an actual acrobatic comedy duo.
Before they also appeared in Forbidden Zone.
Something like that. Just
I think so. Yeah,
bizarre.
Their performance artists. Like that's how they do. That's how they do Richard Elfman. They do it from like the theater.
Even the 91 Addams Family they were in. So it's like, man.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
There's a lot going. I guess maybe I forgot because there's a lot going on in that party.
There's all sorts of wacky stuff there.
Everybody's here. And I think what I like about definitely the Yankovic story is how, halfway through it pretty much feels like UHF 2 the minute he just does that whole I'm in love with Madonna, but Pablo Escobar, captured her. And then it's like he's making fun of Commando type 80s stupid movies. Yeah. It's like this is outrageous. And I love how it ends like so tragically. You're just like and there were so many people who just took this movie so seriously. I'm like, well, it's a comedy going in the minute Thomas Lennon from Reno 911 gets, beat to a pulp by his abusive dad.
I read a review where it's like it may not give you any insights into Weird Al. Like, well, yeah, it was never meant to.
It's not meant to be. No. Yeah. And many people are still like, well, so what's the point? I'm like, there isn't any. It's just making fun of
that's the point.
Music biopics.
Do you know biopics? Which I mean, yeah, mostly music biopics, but biopics in general have that formula of like.
I didn't see the trailer, but they apparently made fun of Walk the Line and Ray, and I'm like, see, so
pretty sure it was more accurate than most of them.
Basically like I don't approve of your lifestyle. Now I accept your lifestyle or some such.
Yeah, and good kudos to Juliana Nicholson. You might know her from the various Law and Orders and Mayor of Easttown and August Osage County. I'm like, you cannot recognize her. I had to look at the credit. I'm like, is that Juliana?
That's right. Yeah,
because I knew she was in it, but
Toby Huss played the dad, and I know him from so many things. But like.
I actually didn't
recognize
the
strongest man in the world.
Yeah, that's where I first know him from. But he's also the voice of Cotton Hill and Khan on King of the Hill.
Oh wow! Oh, that was
voiced both those characters.
Yeah, he was also on. I want to say he was on Unhappily Ever After.
That sounds about right.
He's wrong. He's pretty much appeared
some sitcom around that time frame. I remember him on it.
I think I might have seen that sitcom.
He was Judy Greer's husband in Halloween 2018.
Well, why was Judy Greer in this?
Just basically.
She was in it.
I just mean like just the fact that.
No, I mean in this Yankovic story.
Yeah, like just the fact that Toby Huss has appeared in like a lot of things. He's very much hey, it's that guy, and like if you like I don't have none of my friends really grew up watching Pete and Pete, but where I did, like I do. When I saw him in a bunch of things, like, oh yeah, I recognize that guy. I probably didn't know his name for a long time though.
Oh, totally. And I mean, kudos to the
O'Brien playing Andy Warhol.
That was my favorite cameo, and especially just making fun of his motto, saying that guy will get his 15 minutes, of fame.
Yeah,
like
that was great. I
love how he was on Howard Stern recently, and he's like, I don't remember filming it. It was such a quick shoot. I'm like, because he was having so much fun. And Conan is another one, much like Joel, who doesn't think too highly of himself. He's like, I'm a talk show host who shouldn't even be doing a talk show, but here I am. He's got that silly sense of himself, and he's like, why would I want to act? I would suck.
I've always enjoyed Conan as a host, because like typically
he's the anti-host, basically.
He lets the guests tell their stories. He'll wait to make some kind of like quip.
Yeah, he and Jimmy Kimmel were both kind of just doing the whole, is like, if the guest is bad, they let them hang themselves. If they're someone who's really appealing, they kind of just play off that energy in the room. And
one of my favorite,
the goofy smile, so you just kind of just go.
I think one of my favorite Conan moments was when he interviewed Ray Liotta when he was promoting Narc.
Oh wow,
that
goes back.
Liotta talks about like he gained like 30 pounds for the role or something.
Sounds
like one point,
right.
He says like I looked at myself in the mirror and looked at all the gait I weighed, and he continues to talk. Me and my family knows right away how he says it. Like, and Conan just sits there, but like he has a little bit of a smirk on his face. And then when like Ray's done, he's like, "Yes, you certainly gained a lot of weight." And like Liotta starts laughing along with like, "Oh, did I say it that? Did I actually say it that way?" Because he didn't realize he had said it, and like, and he just laughs with him along with him. Like Conan just waits for him before he comes in there with like pointing out that, "Oh, you accidentally said gate you weighed." I also saw a clip recently that involved like the whole Paul Rudd thing with like for 25 years now or so he's been doing that Mac and Me clip.
Yeah.
And then Paul Rudd's like, "Okay, this is how I'm really gonna show you a clip for my new movie." Okay. And like
gets him every time.
But then once again it gets him, it's like God damn you. It's like he got him again. It's like every time.
Every time they think it's gonna be something different. Even the people prepping the tape.
And yet it's still of course that scene by itself is amazing because of just how obviously a dummy it is.
Yeah.
It's like, why did anyone think this was a good idea to have a kid in a wheelchair go off the side of a cliff?
I didn't see that movie until many years later, but even I knew.
I remember seeing
just the fact that he chooses that clip to play.
I remember.
I think it was just what they had a limited library of clips. I mean, anytime there was like a car crash or other shit that they had to incorporate in there, it would always be from like, you can tell that his writers just watched basically bottom of the barrel like entertainment. I've been listening to Inside Conan podcast as a side note, and they interviewed one of the guys who basically had to watch all the Walker Texas Ranger pull the lever clips. But then there was another guy who also had to basically like just come up with just all the various, off-color characters like Gay Lincoln and, Masturbating Bear. And he passed away recently, unfortunately. A pimp bot. Yeah. They would is like basically just come up with just crazy shit. And they're just like, and even defending it in their writer's room, and I mean, that's why they brought on female writers as well as Dion Cole to write a lot of skits involving, black characters. Just like, we want to be a very culturally sensitive one, even though we're being deliberately over the top. We aren't here to offend anybody. We're just here to be stupid, And I feel like Weird Al and Conan are working much the same way, where they're just like, hey, they want to put on a show, but they also just want to, not overstay their welcome. And Kuda, I applaud them for deciding, release this parody of your life on Vudu, because I think much like UHF, it wouldn't have made any money, but a lot of people would have seen it.
I thought it was on Roku.
Sorry, Roku. I apologize. I get the two mixed up, but yes, it is on Roku.
I mean, I get there's so many out there now,
and I like how he did an intro before the movie. And
yeah,
I'm sure it'll get a DVD Blu-ray release, and that's fine for those who want to see it. But
well, I get it if that includes like commentary. I would love it because I'd love to see like him and Daniel Radcliffe and like the director do a commentary.
Yeah, I thought he did great playing Weird Al.
Oh yeah, he did.
If somebody would have told me 10 years ago about this, I would have been like, "You're nuts. That isn't gonna work."
I saw some comments online that are saying this isn't good casting. I'm like, well, I can see him doing a good job. He looks like
the dude can act too. He's really come out as he's come out well on an actor.
He's
at
always
his older age.
unrecognizable, whatever he's in. Yeah. And
Oh yeah, he's. I mean, when I heard about, like, oh, when I heard about the movie getting made, when I heard he was cast, I'm like, okay, I like Daniel Radcliffe. He's a good actor.
yeah,
That show he's been on the last few years has been pretty good, I thought.
Oh, Miracle Workers.
Yeah,
yes,
Miracle Workers.
That is such a fun show.
yeah. I mean, shame on
It's such a
TBS for changing up his programming because they're doing so much fun stuff with stuff like that and the Detour and everything. And it's like they want to put on just crappy reality shows. I'm like, no, TBS is supposed to be comedy, not reality channel.
Well, so many networks fall to that because, of course, that shit gets ratings.
It gets ratings and it's cheaper to make.
Oh my god, the
I
Ancient
don't understand
Aliens,
why it gets ratings so much.
the train wreck effect, maybe.
It's
I
gotta
think
be.
so. Either that or it's meant for true TV.
The fucking aliens guy from History Channel is going to be at Lexington Comic-Con this year.
Sounds about right.
With the hair. I can't.
Yeah, the crazy hair.
Pronounced.
I wish they could have made fun of him on X-Files back when that was on the air.
Yeah,
That would have been great.
Right? Oh my god.
Oh, that would have
Instead,
been
they made
great.
fun of everything else, like Scientology and serial killers and reality TV. But it just seems like, I don't know, like Jamila Jamil from The Good Place was hosting this one show with the Practical Jokers guys, and it had an okay, like, comedy game show format, but it just looked cheap as shit. Like, filmed with a red camera and, just very rushed. And so you just had these, and I know Robert Carradine, I think, was on one where he just judges people who can be a nerd. I'm just like, that's stupid.
Strong.
Yeah. And I don't know. I feel like it's going to shit. Like, if people weren't watching reruns of Friends or Seinfeld on there, I don't think people would be watching the channel.
And there's like 4 shows. There's been 4 shows created that have been dedicated to finding Bigfoot. 4 of them, I think, at least.
That makes sense. I mean,
it's just like, oh my god.
No, eventually somebody's going to get it right.
I hope so, because People of Earth was another one, which was making fun of aliens and everything.
Oh,
again,
that was a good show.
And once again, Conan produced that, and that wasn't enough. People stopped watching and they canceled it. And I was like, well,
yeah, I was bummed when that got canceled too.
So it seems like Conan helped them out a bunch, and then he just said, "Screw it, I'm going to my podcast."
How did these civilizations get created by brown people?
Brown people.
I mean, they don't say it, but it's pretty much what seems to happen. It's always, if it's a society that's not Caucasian, they're flabbergasted that these people could possibly have made these things.
How dare the Aztecs be more awesome than we are?
How could they have done it? Could it have been aliens? No, probably not. Most likely no.
Most likely some caveman who happened to be really good at what he did.
Bigfoot must be real, even though we live in an era where everyone's being monitored by everything, yet we still haven't found him.
Oh, but don't you know, Will, that it must exist because I've lied to myself all these years. It must exist.
Bigfoot's got a cloaking device. He's a predator.
I like that theory. I hope they make a movie about it.
Wow, he just vacations in the area here and there.
He's just a hobo who happens to be overweight, outgrown, and just very hairy and doesn't bathe. It's not an actual Sasquatch.
What, Nick Nolte?
Oh,
right, amigo. They finally caught me.
Poor Nick Nolte.
Oh, riff tracks. I don't know if about Nick Nolte, but I guess based on those impressions, like does he use in interviews a mixture of Spanish?
He was known for being drunk in public, even though he's cleaned up his act. But it didn't matter. They had done the joke enough times to where they're like, "Hey, he's our." We're always in character playing a character, and that's another random character we're going to include.
Well, I mean, it always seems to always like their impression always involves them like using some Spanish word, calling someone amigo. No problem, amigo. Not the first time I've woken up in a puddle of my own filth.
Mm-hmm.
He does have one of the mother of celebrity mugshots. I mean, I once saw a book of like I think back when it was Borders, they had like a book of celebrity mugshots. It was pretty magical.
Anytime someone would do a prank call where they were playing a homeless man, they would take that mugshot of him and use that as like
him and Gary Busey need to do a buddy comedy these days.
Oh my god.
Have they ever been in a movie together?
Surprisingly not. They both work with Tom Elias. That's as close as they got.
There are certain actors you think should have done a movie together at some point, but I once brought up David Carradine and Cameron Mitchell were never in a movie together. It's like
John Carradine. Oh,
well, yes, technically he and Cameron Mitchell were never in a movie together that was necessarily filmed at the same time. They were
the same filmmakers. That counts.
Yeah, they were spliced in there, but yeah. Well, John Carradine just being in there was like, well, shit. I remember the riff tracks of Jacko, where it's like, can you call it a special appearance after the 500 movies he's been in? And it's like, and then someone was like, and then someone else was like, same goes for Cameron Mitchell. Like, can you really call it a special appearance when they've been in this many movies?
Yeah, especially if most of them were filmed back to back. Do you feel like these movies might as well have been filmed back to back? Because it feels like the humor never left the room, and here we are 30 years later, another Weird Al movie. And for all I know, they could just tell me, hey, this was already a script back in 1990.
I would buy it.
I remember a Weird Al cameo in a movie from when I was a kid.
Spy Hard.
No, although I actually didn't see Spy Hard till later, to like my adult years, and Lord, that's a painful watch.
It's pretty dumb.
It starts like the opening, the Weird Al song. The opening with Weird Al, that's great. Apparently, he directed that part himself. The opening to the actual movie is decent, but it really goes
It's
down.
Where
quick.
Leslie Nielsen and the Zucker brothers were kind of going at that point to where the spoof movie was getting out of control, and it was much like Shatner.
That was also
to me that was kind of the point of that movie. That's why I liked it.
It was also the first. It was also the first
Agent
movie
WD-40.
It was the first. It was also the first movie co-written by Seltzerberg.
Then Andy Griffith as the villain was pretty funny.
Like it has its moments, but overall, yeah. But no, the one I'm talking about, although the one I'm about to talk about does have Leslie Nielsen in it, so
it definitely was not the best parody by all means.
Yeah.
But
And it's also
I did find it amusing.
Like, and while I mentioned it as Leslie Nielsen, it's not Naked Gun.
Yeah, it's better than Mr. Magoo. So there's that.
There's this movie Leslie Nielsen did, and Weird Al appears as well. It was called Safety Patrol. It was from like the late 90s.
I do not know this.
It was a TV movie on Disney Channel, I believe. It involved like this accident. It involved this kid who was accident prone, or he caused accidents around him.
I see it. 98. Wow.
He was played by Bug Hall, who was Alfalfa in the Little Rascals movie.
Oh my god!
He was in Honey We Shrunk Ourselves, which was co-written by Joel Hodgson.
I remember that one. I saw that stupid sequel way too many times. He played the youngest Selinsky kid because the other two were gone at this point. So I'm looking this up. The safety. And Patrol. I did not see this somehow.
Yes, I saw it like once. Like this kid,
Weird Al's playing himself.
He's this overly enthusiastic kid who wants to be on the safety patrol, and his school doesn't want him to be there because he's a jinx. So they change the zoning board or something, so he has to get transferred. And at this school, the safety patrol is like some kind of weird, like basically they hold the school with an iron grip somehow. It's some weird nonsense. And he makes friends with a bunch of quirky other characters, including some kind of goth chick who he kind of becomes his love interest.
Oh, wow.
Huh. And there's one kid who is afraid of this one kid who in science class one day they were dissecting frogs and his frog suddenly came to life and now he thinks that this frog is stalking him. It's a weird move. Also, the kid's got a grandfather who's constantly being injured because of his, again, the kid's a jinx, he unintentionally harms people. But it also has a weird somber mode, the all is lost third act moment, and it's playing the Pretender song "I'll Stand by You."
Nice.
And yeah, but I remember
is it so bad it's good, or just stupid, trashy, curious?
It's been forever since I've seen it, so I don't remember how good it was.
Let's look it up. Is it on YouTube?
I don't remember it being like, for what it was not a terrible movie, if I recall correctly. And like I forget what Leslie Nielsen's role in the movie is. Let's see, I'm trying to find the movie on. Okay, 1998. Okay, oh yeah, it was part of the Wonderful World of Disney. Like it's not listed as a movie, it's listed as an episode. Oh, it also has Curtis Armstrong in it. Lainey Kazan. Oh shit, it was directed by Savage Steve Holland.
Oh,
who co-wrote it too.
Wow.
Director of Better Off Dead and One Crazy Summer.
I love both of those movies.
Oh shit, Ed McMahon plays the kid's grandpa. Grandpa Bozell. Oh yeah, the kid's name is Scout. It's got like a few like fairly well-known people in there. Like yeah, Leslie Nielsen's in there as like, I think he's the principal. I forget his role in the movie there. He might be the school principal, but
he has made a living doing stupid movies for our enjoyment.
And like, yeah, this came out in like, circa.
The funny thing is, he started off as a
serious
drama
actor from Canada. Yeah,
like, yeah, before Airplane, like I think one of his few comedic roles before that was like he did a movie with Debbie Reynolds, Tammy and the Bachelor. It was a romantic comedy from the 50s.
Yeah.
And then of course there's
I impressed everyone when I introduced a movie where he actually does kung fu.
And there's Forbidden Planet.
That guy.
Forbidden Planet would be his other known like dramatic role.
Right. Serious.
And then like before Airplane, he had a few of those like he did Day of the Animals where like he plays this scumbag.
Oh yes. Well, so
constantly calling the one guy.
Why was he not in UHF? He would have been perfect in one of the.
He would have been.
In fact, I could have seen him playing the boss, the evil boss.
Like there was one movie.
Did that.
Yeah, like there was one movie he did in the late 80s. It was like
I don't see him that angry though, but I think he still could have pulled it off.
Maybe not. If you've seen City on Fire, which I know you guys have, he can do evil.
I think like the last movie he did that was a full-on drama was in like 87.
Right.
Oh yeah, it was called Nuts. He like starred Barbara Streisand. And it was directed by it had Barbara Streisand, Richard Dreyfuss, Maureen Stapleton, and Carl Malden. Eli Wallach.
Yeah, wow. It's not my favorite Mel Brooks movie by any means, but I did love him in Dracula Dead and Loving It.
Hey, what can we say? Pretty wacky.
Oh yeah, also Leslie Nielsen. Leslie Nielsen in that Viva Knievel. He was in that. He was the main bad guy.
Oh my god! Yes.
Sarah Mitchell was in. Also, Marjo Gortner, Red Buttons, Gene Kelly.
Oh god.
Gene Kelly was billed to Evel Knievel in his acting debut.
Oh, everyone gets their moment in the sun. So
Lauren Hutton as Knievel's love interest. Ignoring the fact that at the time he was married with 3 kids.
All right, let's bring it around to.
All right, yeah.
So if you were to do a third Weird Al movie, what crazy actors would you put in his movie? Because like he had some great actors here for Al Yankovic. I mean, Rainn Wilson was perfect Dr. Demento, and Anja Bronson from Abbott Elementary was spot on as Oprah. I love how she's like, "Is that all?" in the interview. You okay there, buddy?
Other actors I'd love to see Weird Al work with in a movie. I mean,
Jack Black would be great. Those guys would totally get along. But
Amy Poehler, I think, would be good.
I'm surprised their paths haven't crossed. I kept waiting for him to be on Parks and Rec or something, and he's like, nope.
Yeah. Oh man, he would. I could totally see Weird Al playing.
He did have a bit part on a episode of the Drew Carey Show.
I could see it.
It was during those episodes where Drew had that airport band.
Oh.
And then he decides to leave, which was funny because that was apparently the same day that they were going to kick him out of the band, but they didn't tell him. And they replaced him with Weird Al.
That's right. Yes.
He comes out and he's like, "Hey, I hope you don't mind. I brought my accordion."
Oh yeah. Oh, and he cameoed.
I do recall that. Yeah.
Cameoed in Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, which I guess being musicians, they know each other.
Yeah, I'm not gonna even open up that can of worms.
Where Alan Sell points out that Michael Myers and Mike Myers, yes, they have similar names. Like, oh my god,
there is a Drew Carey connection though. There, I kept wondering who the narrator was the entire time in his music bio parody, and I was like, oh, it's Diedrich Bader, Oswald.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. He did do that.
And Seth Green was the DJ, but I totally did not recognize his voice. I'm not surprised that he was in there, but
I've heard Diedrich Bader in enough things to recognize that voice.
I mean, I have too, but I just for whatever reason most
of the time I catch him, but sometimes he disguises it a bit too much for me.
It really.
I mean, it happens. It's happened to me too, where it's like, I swear this person is familiar to me. Actually, the dude that played Pablo Escobar in Weird, he's
who was that actor?
He's part of the cast of The Menu that I saw recently with Ray Fiennes, which when I was watching that movie, I'm like, this guy looks familiar. I'm like, oh, it was Pablo Escobar.
Yeah, I was a little bummed that the guy they had playing Frank Zappa didn't do anything more than just be hanging out in the background.
He was goofy. I kept wondering who was Pee Wee Herman, but I was way too impressed by his performance and his visual gags. But as a member of the Lonely Island, he's a bunch of other dumb Saturday Night Live shorts.
Was it Emo Phillips playing Salvador Dali?
I think the cast, but I will say this: even though I recognize Patton Oswalt as one of the hecklers, I totally did not recognize the crappy band who talks shit to Weird Al and lets him play with them was, Jonah Ray. I was like, that's wild.
Oh yeah. Oh shit, that's right.
But Will Forte was the most recognizable for me as one of the producer brothers. But I do love how
he was great.
I mean, they showed the clip, but on talk shows, but I was just blown away when actually watching the movies. Like, this is just so funny. Weird Al is playing a producer while talking to Daniel Radcliffe, who's playing himself. So he's technically complimenting himself and roasting himself in the same scene. And it's just so meta. I like that kind of humor. And
because these are no doubt things he heard throughout his life of people saying about, like,
oh yeah.
I'm sure he heard every one of those someplace.
Well, hell, even him mentioning how like certain aspects of the story did happen, though, such as he did get a recording from a salesman. He did record My Bologna in a bathroom. Like those two things that sound outrageous actually did happen.
The crazy little subplot where Madonna's trying to get him to do parody to make her music more popular really cracked me up.
Yeah, the Yankovic bump, they called it, where apparently like certain artists, they would get a bit more spike in their popularity after a Weird Al parody happens. So I know like Coolio wasn't super happy about Amish Paradise at first, but then I think we saw the finished product. He was more appreciative of it.
Rest in peace, Coolio.
Yeah, growing up, I remember like Coolio, like he appeared on All That. He did the theme song to Kenan and Kel.
I did not know that.
Oh yeah,
I watched the show a bunch. Wow.
Yeah, he was in the opening thing to it as well. So here it goes. So like, but he was a musical guest on All That because they always had a musical guest, and like he was part of a sketch that involved.
Oh yes, my least favorite part of that show.
Well, yeah, I get because they were probably going for
they're trying too hard to be like SNL, and it's like, guys, stop trying to be like that. Just be
hell. Once Kenan and Kel left All That, the show really went downhill.
Yeah, I wouldn't know what.
And somehow from All That, somehow Nick Cannon still has a career. Like, sure,
and Amanda Bynes has gone crazy and has to get like.
I don't like even when you drugs. All That. I was like, why is this guy's not very funny? But then years later, he's doing like hosting shit. And then, then at one point he got married to Mariah Carey. I'm like, why did she choose him?
I don't know. And then Drake and Josh keep like blending in with various other ensembles, and you're like, it's easy to forget they were Disney Nickelodeon kids.
I mean, it's a shame I mean, I hope Amanda Bynes is doing better these days because I thought she was funny and
she was the big high point, especially when she had her own sitcom.
I just like, so I hope she's doing
Weird
well.
Al work with one of these guys. He technically did work with Jack Black and Aisha Tyler in the music video he did where he's making fun of Pharrell's
Oh yeah, tacky.
Happy. Yeah, tacky. That was funny. So, but I would actually like, but they don't talk. They're just lip syncing.
Yeah.
So I would like to see them actually
Yeah.
be in a movie with them. I think Andy Richter would get along perfectly with them. Hell, get Tim and Eric. He was on their show.
Maybe then again, it's been years since I watched their show. I could never get into Tim and Eric Awesome Show. Great job, even when I knew what their.
It was pretty stupid because it was basically TV you watch in hell is what they described it as. Is like, I believe
I can see
he could get Eric Andre.
Some stuff really cracked me up on it. Other stuff
as I got older, I understood the idea. I could understand. As at first I thought, how could anyone like this? But then as I got older and started realizing how much more subjective humor is, like I didn't see what they were going for. I could see how
Eric Andre is a better version of it.
Yeah. I've liked a lot of his stuff. It just
he pretty much just goes for it. It's like streaking. No one asked for it. I'm going for it anyway. Yeah.
Eric Warheim, he co-starred or appeared on the show Master of None with Aziz Ansari. They're apparently friends in real life, and I thought he was really funny in that. So,
yeah,
as his best friend.
Although Aziz Ansari, I hear, is pretty sketchy.
Well, I know there was that whole. For what I've always heard, that supposed sexual harassment. That was like I've always heard that was a big misunderstanding between both parties. I don't know. As far as so compared to unfortunately, compared to everyone else that's got in trouble for sexual misconduct, apparently his has become less. Given that not much else has come from that, I feel like it maybe was a misunderstanding just because of. So far, there hasn't been there hasn't been. Well, no, it's just like there hasn't been any further
investigation.
Yeah, so I just feel like maybe it really was just some kind of misunderstanding between both parties. Again, I don't know, but because that shit does happen where both people miscommunicate. And hell, I'm not saying if it did actually happen, then that's unfortunate. I hope because I like it did actually happen. But when I heard about Louis C.K., it's like, okay, so he jerked off in front of some women. That's unfortunate, but I gotta say, that's unfortunately a low bar. If they walked in on him and he continued, it's like, well, he wasn't putting his hands on them. It's still gross, but it's unfortunately a low bar. He wasn't drugging and sleeping with them.
Oh, yeah, true.
It's like
no Cosby cocktails.
Thank God he wasn't in either of these movies.
Yes.
You find it funny how Prince refused to let Weird Al, perform when do a parody of any of his music, and yet he included the video as part of his UHF video. It's just meta. It's like he got his revenge some way, shape, form.
Funny, I do recall years later, Prince did a parody of one of his songs on Muppets Tonight. Of course, I guess that was him doing it, so it's okay.
Yeah, there's no telling with that prima donna.
He was,
and that's as a fan. That's as a fan.
Yeah, artistic people are weird, for lack of a better word. The fact is, anyone who does something in the arts, music, literature, whatever, tend to have personalities that are you can't always tell what's going to be. I wish I could see what Prince was like before he was famous, like when he was just a kid growing up in Minnesota. Because it's like, what was he like then? What did he dress? Or how did he dress before he got famous and could buy all these crazy clothes?
And I don't know how true any of these were. I'm sure there is definitely some truth in these stories, but back on the old Chappelle show, when Charlie Murphy was telling stories about Prince,
right?
Those bits really cracked me up.
Charlie Murphy would have gone on perfect with Weird Al.
Oh God! When Kevin Smith talked about working with Prince and he heard he plays basketball, what's he wear? It's like he wears Prince wears regular clothes, wears tennis shoes, and
skins and blouses.
It's just he shops at the boys department because he's so short, and it's just what? Or shit! I remember just thinking what the hell was Kanye West like as a kid? Was he just going around one day, guys? I'm gonna be the voice of my generation? His friends
I'm afraid to find out.
Oh God. His friends was. I remember when he said he's the voice of the generation. I looked up when he was born. Okay, he's not part of my generation. Thank God. He's more part of my older brother's generation.
Oh, that means you might be in mine then, probably.
Because like my oldest brother, he was born in 1976, and Connie was born like 77.
Oh, yep. That's the year I was born.
I was born in
You guys
87,
are on
so
the same
like
level. I'm so
we're
fucking
Well,
technically
he definitely doesn't speak for me, so.
Oh,
yeah, like my oldest brother, we're like 11
good
years
thing?
apart in
Question
age,
mark.
so we're technically part of different generations in that regard.
My
Like
generation.
Like he's part more of Generation X, and I'm more part of the millennial crowd.
Actually, I was thinking he was more my youngest brother's age.
Oh shit!
Like,
because I was off.
Thank God, Yoko Ono.
Oh.
Oh. Sorry.
I remember seeing Yoko Ono. She was part of the voice cast of Isle of Dogs.
Yeah, she was.
And like, it's just I couldn't help in my head just thinking like, oh no, is she gonna howl at some point? I've never heard all of her music, so I have no idea if it's all terrible. From what I hear, I mean, I've also heard people say, oh, it's meant to be bad because like a critique on blah blah blah.
Can't really think of any pleasant moments of it, but I haven't heard all her music either.
And I know like
John. I thought the Simpsons nailed it pretty good when they did the B Sharps episode.
The Powerpuff Girls did it too.
I bet they did.
And Barney had the Japanese girlfriend. The Powerpuff Girls had an episode where like four of their villains became a villain group called the Beat Alls. And so they and there were so many lines of dialogue that were just direct references from their songs. Like at one point, Mojojo, give me money, that's what I want. But then
if they ever do a live action version, Weird Al should totally be Mojo Jojo.
But then Mojo beats Yoko Jojo. Or Yoko Jono, and she's dressed in all white. She doesn't talk; she just screeches.
That sounds about right. That checks out.
There's even a scene in the episode where like they're all lying in a bed, holding up traffic, like in the middle of the street, holding up traffic. It's like we are protesting by staying in bed. But then it turns out it was all a ploy by the Power Girls to break them all up, and joke and the monkey. She was actually Michelle. Like one day, but remember, girls, one day Monkey will play piano song. Well, see you later.
That's amazing.
Yeah, the whole episode is filled with Beatle references, and like there's even a scene where they're beating up the '60s era's Beatle, and then at one point we see cameos from like the Yellow Submarine looking Beatles.
Wow.
Like in a crowd. Like it's just a whole
this is back when they let every cartoon basically do whatever they wanted as long as it wasn't too violent.
Like the late the 90s to early 2000s just had some weird.
They were desperate for content, so
and like it's just I mean, shit, like Samurai Jack. Oh, it's not violent because he's slicing up robots that spew out oil instead of blood.
Right, cyborg beetles, yeah.
Or they were like bugs that had like green slime instead of blood, so it's not violence by their logic.
I mean, it was intense, but it wasn't. If you're 10 years old, you can watch it. Same thing with. It's just weird how we always had to. I mean,
it was funny when they
in comparison
did that in video games as well, where there'd be a setting to like reduce the effects, and it would just basically change the blood color to green.
Kombat, you can turn off the language and gore, and
like the Super Nintendo port of Mortal Kombat, instead of blood, it was supposed to be like sweat, but it was like gray.
It was bad.
Graphic. I mean, maybe that's why like people didn't notice this. Like maybe I think
they were too distracted by primetime TV, even though it was like, well, that's why you put the kids to bed. Even though, yes, half the content, it's
they're distracted by
line.
Games and music to not focus on what kids are watching on Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon to notice the weird shits.
Yeah, it's cable TV, so less people were noticing. But yeah, primetime is even weirder. How it's like, what would definitely make a movie be R is giving a PG-13, safe to air rating on primetime TV.
We got Batman the Animated Series to thank for clown fetishizing. I mean, with Harley. I mean, come on.
Thank God I don't remember those episodes. I remember all the Joker episodes.
Oh, there was supposed of Harley Quinn just being full on sexualized. I mean, there's one scene where she bursts out of a giant pie and she's just covered in whipped cream.
Wow.
There's also that bit where she's trying to seduce Joker, or she's wearing a nightgown. Like, come on, Puddin', don't you want to rev up your Harley? Which, I mean, it's like, wow. It's like, sure, you figured they were doing it, but like, they just basically just said it to you.
Right. Basically, you got to do subtext, and adults didn't care because they grew up as comic book fans. So there's like, okay.
The original Japanese of Pokemon the movie 2000, Meowth just basically points out that Jesse and James have had sex. And it's like, well, come on. They're two teenage kids alone with no supervision.
Oh, man. I feel like Weird Al should just take a foreign like anime or just other movie and just redub it.
That'd be great.
He probably would have done that back in his day when he was doing all the mock interviews for MTVs.
I do remember when he voiced on the Brack Show, I think it was.
He definitely did something. He's definitely appeared on Space Ghost and Brack Show.
Like he was a character who's like, we're gonna see naked ladies. He voiced the main character on the Disney Channel show Milo Murphy's Law.
Oh wow.
From the creators of Phineas and Ferb. Actually, I think it's set in the same universe.
I think my aunt watched it. I heard about it, but I kept forgetting.
He performs the opening. He performs the opening theme as well, and like he's a kid his family's related to the origin of Murphy's Law, so like he's a jinx, but he's positive.
Well, that
could be worse. He could have been related to Browns.
He's also got
Brown's Law. It's one law. Murphy was an optimist.
But and he's got a pet dog named Diogi, which I'm like, it took me a moment when I first saw the show to get the joke behind his name. Like, oh, like that's actually kind of clever. I'll admit.
It's just a lot of digging.
Well, it's kind of like how when I say like the movie I Love Dogs, like once you say it out loud, like, oh, I get it. Well, my brother pointed out to me when the Venture Brothers was out, we're like, I didn't first understand. Like, he told me, he said, like, also the creator going by the name Jackson Public, and like, why is that? Like, why is it funny? They're like, when I said it out loud, like, oh, okay. Like, just reading it, but when I said it out loud, like, oh, okay.
Reading are hard.
Well, just a different. It's like it's just somehow different. Like you read it, you don't really. Reading it, I don't really. Once I say it then like when I hear it myself, that's what makes me realize the joke behind it. But reading it at first it doesn't always click with me.
You have to add your own.
Yeah, I've ran across that before too.
Yeah, it's like it's sometimes I can read something and I get the joke immediately, and that could just be me because of how I'm wired. Other people might get something immediately when they read it, but like for me, once I hear it, it's like, okay, now I see why. Now I get the joke. Like once I hear the cadence, as it were. Like just reading Jackson Public, I just see the name Jackson and Public. I don't think of like saying it all together. Like that Aqua Teen joke. Like I am Sofa King, we Todd Ed. Like I get the joke there because of course how they keep trying to get him to say how the voodoo guy he's trying to get everyone to say it. No, a little faster now. Or which of course is derived from that joke. I am Sofa King Stupid.
Right.
But yeah, it's like but yeah, like that. So it's just a matter of like the hearing it being said makes it for me more sense at times. Or like how, or just like, well, as I get older, certain jokes and certain lyrics of Weird Al songs I didn't quite get the context behind because like I may just not have been aware of like what he was talking about. Either being a cultural thing, pop culture thing, or just like a more adult joke that might have been featured in the song initially. Like when I first heard Albuquerque, I don't think I was familiar with the term colonic irrigation. Which I remember at one concert, someone in the audience yelled.
I'm not sure if you want to be familiar with that one.
Well, no. But I remember at his concert, someone in the audience yelled for him to perform that. I'm like, that's an 11-minute song. That is not a concert song. Like, are you insane? But,
probably are.
Yeah. I think people have also suggested singing Trapped to the Drive-Thru. We're like, again, that is an album song. I do love that song, though, because of just how the mundaneness of it.
It's very relatable.
So I get in the trap, so I open the car door, and I close the car door, put the key in the ignition. and I looked at him, and he looked at me, and I looked at him. like fast food work with a vacant look, because like, yeah. I dig in those sweet buns. I can't believe it. They forgot my onions.
I do like that one.
As Leo Getz would say, they fuck you at the drive-thru. Because like Lethal Weapon 2, like they fuck you at the drive-thru. They know you're not going to be there when you look at your food. Like, he's not wrong. They can.
Joe Pesci.
I always tell people to look at your food before driving off, because it does happen.
It apparently does. Yeah.
Because which part of me gets it. If they're busy enough, it's easy to forget things, which some people don't realize. Because of course, some people will do anything they can to, berate some poor minimum wage jockey.
Yep. Not do their part.
Because they just want to feel better about themselves for a while, because they're probably in some soul crushing job.
Okay. Well, anyone have anything they want to promote before we take off?
There's my website, geekwithclipons.com. Kind of a mouthful to say, I realize. But it's only slightly shorter than my actual handle. But yeah, I do need to start getting ready for work.
All righty. Well, been great having you all on here.
It was fun.
Yes, it was. Oh, I will say this. One of my favorite gags from UHF, which is like at the beginning, when George is asking what time it is, and a fist comes through the wall from the karate studio, and like the guy's got a wristwatch on. I love that gag. Like, just like, oh no, I'm late. Or when he slams his head on the table with his girlfriend, like, I just don't know what's wrong with me. So what's for dinner? Just like goes from manic to calm. Moments like that I really enjoy. Gave me Gene Wilder vibes.
And then I'm not sure why I didn't mention this either, but I seen, as I said, I seen Weird Al here at towards the end of the summer here, and Emo Phillips actually opened up for him on that show.
Oh, nice.
So that
was
real nice.
That far back. So yeah.
Emo, I first remember hearing him in this regard because he voiced on home movies occasionally. That's where I first heard. That's where I first heard him. He voiced a bully character named Shannon. But more or less using that same voice and inflection of like that deadpan delivery to him. And yeah, I saw
got a certain style of delivery there for sure.
And of course, like UHF, like, oh boy, just call me Mr. Butterfingers. He slices his thumb off.
Oh,
my face is red.
And other than that, I've just got one plug.
Yeah,
go to Spatula City for all your spatula needs.
They got spatulas and nothing else.
You don't need anything else, just some spatulas. Yeah.
But if you do need something else, there's always the hardware store.
Hardware store.
We're easy. That's for sure. Okay, then. I should be going. Have a good one, y'all.
Everyone take care.
Yep, thanks for having me.
This was too much fun.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram
The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening.
It's a jacked up